Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Almost Normal. The other day I woke up and I was feeling a little bit anxious, the anxiety was definitely brewing. It's really hard to tell when I wake up whether it's going to be a really chill day or it's going to be like a zzz kind of day, and it definitely was a zzz kind of day that day. And something I do when I'm very anxious is I start to convince myself that everyone in my life hates me. Either I wrote or said something about one of my friends to someone and it was so horrendous that it got back to them and they decided to shun me from the friendship group, even though I don't remember saying anything bad, but my brain will be like, maybe you did though and you just forgot. Or I'll think, wow, they all discovered that I'm actually not that cool and they think that I'm making the friendship group less interesting, so they're all going to stop being my friend, or I don't know, something like that. My brain will come up with new things each time. So what I did this morning was I got my phone, which I should never fucking do when I wake up. By the way, I did that this morning. And I stayed in bed for an extra hour with the anxiety flowing. Okay, if I can give you one piece of advice, when you wake up in the morning, do not go on your phone. Do not go on your phone. If you have an Alexa or some sort of other alarm, use that and put your phone in a different room. Because starting your day on social media or not getting a text back or the right text that you're expecting, like that'll fuck your day up, okay? We are way too available to the rest of the world, and that is just pure anxiety inducing. But anyway, I woke up this morning with the anxiety and I decided to text all of my friends. I decided to text all my friends because I was like, you know what, maybe my anxiety is just telling me fibbies, and I'm gonna just check. I should just check, right? No, don't do that, okay? Don't do that, all right? You have to tell yourself that it's just your brain making things up. Do not act on your anxiety's compulsions, okay? Your anxiety wants you to do crazy shit, and the more you listen to it, the more crazy shit it's going to tell you to do. Don't do that, okay? I'm doing CBT right now, and it's really helping, and I'm going to talk about that in another episode, but don't do what your anxiety tells you to do, okay? Literally step 1 of CBT, step 1. I texted all of my friends, and I said, something along the lines of like, hey, what are you guys doing today? Or, hey, how are you? Sort of overcompensating. I was definitely overcompensating in those messages because I had already convinced myself that I had done something wrong and I needed to repent for my sins. Okay, so the text was super needy. You could probably smell the desperation in them, but I was just definitely trying to overcompensate and try to make myself feel like a good person, because at that time I was feeling like a very, very bad person. I went downstairs, got a cup of coffee, sat in my kitchen and waited not very patiently for my friends to text me back. And surprise, surprise, they didn't text me back. It was the morning. I waited probably 45 minutes until I started to crash out about that. I didn't get any responses, okay? I sometimes don't consider the fact that my friends have their own lives to get on with, and that the life purpose is in fact not to solely make me happy and is not to solely text me back the minute I text them, that is not what they were put on this planet to do. I have to remind myself of that, okay? I also have to remind myself of how many times people have texted me and I've looked at the text and then just not responded in that moment. How many fucking times have I done that? But I can't handle people doing it to me. So I started to crash the fuck out. And my husband was sitting with me and I was like, holy shit, what did I do? I think they will hate me. I'm going to have to move country. I'm going to have to find a new place, to make a new life, to make new friends who don't know this horrible, weird secret that's obviously going around and has made everyone hate me. You know, what could it possibly be? Maybe I said something once and I forgot that. And they are like so disgusted by my actions that they just cannot associate with me any further. Like, I have to move so far from this location in order to live my life fully. My husband obviously was looking at me like, look, valid feelings, but I honestly think everything's gonna be fine, okay? Eventually, people started to respond. One friend was trying to find some jewelry that she had misplaced that was very important. She was not sort of sitting around on her phone waiting for me to message her. Okay, she was busy. Another friend messaged me and I saw her that day. And when she came over, we actually did come up in conversation. It did come up in conversation. This sort of anxiety people get when it comes to friendships, and it was not related to my situation earlier that day at all, because I was so embarrassed by how I reacted that I was like, you know what, only me and my husband know that, so I'm really not going to tell anyone else. But my friend started talking about another friend that she had, and she started to talk about friendship trauma, and that really started to get me thinking that I must be holding on to an insane amount of friendship trauma. I then got a flashback memory of where this all could have possibly stemmed from. Now, I think that naturally human beings are very afraid of rejection. Our brains really fear rejection and will react quite strongly to it. When we were cavemen, if we were shunned from our group, we needed hunters and we needed gatherers and we needed the people to stay and look after the children and the elderly. Like, it took a whole group of people to survive back then. And so if you were shunned from a group, then it meant very bad things. It meant you were probably not going to survive. Now, these days, it's not quite the same, all right? We don't need our friends to fight off wild boar for us. But, you know, our brains still react and understand rejection in the exact same way it used to millions of years ago. I remember when I was about 18 years old, I had this friend, and we had been friends for years. She literally lived 5 minutes up the street from my house. So as you can imagine, we were together a lot. And this one day, I believe we had plans to hang out that evening. And I was messaging her and she just was not messaging me back. And I was calling her, she wasn't calling me back. And I can't quite remember whether she either just ghosted me completely all day or she said something like, oh, I can't hang out tonight, I'm seeing my mom, or some shit like that. And that evening, I was sitting in my kitchen and I started to scroll through Instagram and Snapchat, which I used frequently when I was 18 years old. And I saw a bunch of videos and pictures of this friend who ghosted me or said that they were busy, hanging out at their house, which was again 5 minutes up the road from my house, with a whole other group of friends, which was about 5 other girls. Needless to say, I was very, very upset. I started desperately calling her and texting her, asking what I had done wrong, why were they doing this to me? And I don't think I ever got an answer, to be honest. I do not believe I ever got an answer about what the fuck happened there. But I can tell you this much. The feeling of rejection was something that I had never experienced before. This feeling of total alienation and basically feeling like I had been demonized, because clearly a group of at least 6 people had come together and all decided not to text me, not to invite me, not to mention that they would be hanging out at my friend's house. That's a fair amount of people to all come together and decide they didn't like me anymore. And so I felt this big, okay? I felt like the smallest person in the world. I remember crying to my mom and feeling like a fucking loser because I didn't have any other friends to cry to. And I was like, oh my God, I have to hang out with my mom. Love my mom. But it was like this sense of absolute rejection. And I don't believe that I have ever fully gotten over that or even realized how much that affected me in my friendships today. And I'm 27. That's almost 10 years ago now, which is insane to think about. But that was almost 10 years ago. And I feel like I still have that same shock feeling very available to me when my friends don't answer the phone straight away. I really hadn't thought about this particular event in my life until the other day when I was sitting with my friend and she was talking about her own previous friendship trauma. I didn't really consider how much trauma I had gone through. And in that moment, I could see my 18-year-old self sitting in the kitchen alone crying because she just felt so left out. And I now understand that I am feeling that same pain every time my friends don't text me back within like 10 minutes, okay? I have not done anything to try and tell myself that every time someone doesn't instantly respond to me, it does not mean major rejection, okay? You are not going to go through that same pain every single time it takes a little longer for your friends to reply to you. So our brains literally light up when it senses rejection in the same area that lights up when we experience any sort of physical pain. That's in the anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula, which sort of explains why you get a full body reaction when you think people are not responding to you. The amygdala's job is to sense danger, and it really doesn't know the difference between a bear chasing you and someone ghosting you. It thinks that those things are at the same level of threat to your existence. If you've ever experienced deep rejection before, that little part of your brain, the amygdala, is going to be even more sensitive because it's felt that intensity before, and so it understands it, and so it wants to protect you from that. And the minute you think that you're experiencing rejection, your brain releases cortisol, which is just the stress hormone. This definitely makes things feel like a crisis, and your brain is like, oh my God, we have to fix this right now, which is sort of when you go into that fight or flight mode and you're like, holy shit, am I going to call and text everyone 100 times to make sure that I hadn't done anything wrong? Or am I just going to leave it and crawl in my bed and go under the covers? Also, I feel like we can say this about anything we do on our phones, but when you send a text, you get a slight hit of dopamine because your brain is anticipating that reply. So if you don't instantly get that reply, then you get a little bit of a dopamine drop as well. And that can lead to feeling very disappointed and then checking your phone obsessively, waiting for that thing to come. And then every time you check your phone, you feel sadder and more disappointed. Then we have the hippocampus, which is the memory holder. And every time it feels like rejection is coming, it'll be like, oh fuck, I remember this. And it was very, very painful. So I am just preparing you for what is probably about to happen, even if it's been 10 minutes since you sent the fucking text. This is obviously going to make your reaction so much worse. Basically, you are in that moment reacting to every single experience of friendship trauma you've ever had. You aren't just reacting to what's happening in front of you. You are going back and reliving every time someone really, really treated you badly as a friend. And humans just seek belonging, okay? As I said in the beginning, when we were cavemen, if you were rejected by your group, it usually meant death. It typically doesn't mean death anymore. But our brains don't actually really know the difference. So of course, if your brain has an inkling that rejection might be approaching, then it's going to think about all of these things. It's going to be a life or death situation. So of course, we're going to react in these huge, massive ways. Again, especially if you have experienced friendship, trauma, and rejection before and haven't properly dealt with it. Like, I have not properly dealt with what happened. I also think just having technology makes it so much worse because people are so available to you. You kind of think and expect people are going to respond to you straight away. You know, we have a generation of instant gratification. I want this one thing. What I want is you to reply to me. I don't get it immediately. That doesn't feel good. Also, people have very, very different attachment styles. So there's anxious attachment, which basically scans for disconnection and internal overthink and spiral. It's like looking for the bad. But then you have the avoidant attachment, which actually means that they might be the one that takes hours to reply and they need space to regulate. It's not a personal problem, like they just need their time. And then there's secure attachment, which is trust that the friendship is solid even when there are gaps, which I have never experienced, purely because I clearly have a very anxious attachment style. But I also would argue that I have an avoidant attachment style too. Like, I would argue that I sometimes don't snap react to people when they send me messages. So I'm on either sides of the spectrum. So it's very interesting that I can't learn from that and be like, hey, you know that you don't reply to people's messages straight away. So why do you expect people to reply to you straight away? Like, what's going on there? I think I just want to say, like, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because it's clear that so many people feel this way, and it's actually such a horrible feeling. And something that it brings out in me is this huge fucking sense of desperation, because I feel so out of control and I feel like I need to control everyone and everything around me. And so if you're like out in the world, not responding, not telling me where you are or what you're doing or who you're hanging out with, then I feel totally out of control from you. But that is a lesson, and we need to release control, because you will never control anyone, okay? You can never force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. You can't force people to text you back earlier, okay? So I feel like when we start to have an inkling that our brains are like, oh, is rejection happening? We have to recognize that, okay? The more desperate and the more we act out our anxieties, impulses, the worse it's gonna get. And then we're gonna get anxious about the fact that we were super desperate and sent 100 texts, and we're gonna be embarrassed, and it's just gonna make everything worse. So I think the first thing is to just understand that this is a natural reaction and everyone feels this way. Do not make any quick snap judgments. List things that they could be doing. Could be in the shower, right? Could be making breakfast. Could see the text and just like, don't have the response for it right now. There's 100 million things that people could be doing instead of replying to your message, okay? They could be at work, they could be in class at school, they could be having a very deep conversation with the significant other. Like, you just don't know. I would say also just waiting, okay? Waiting before you even look at your phone. Throw your phone away. If you really, really react badly to people not responding to you straight away, get rid of your phone. Don't even check. Because if they haven't responded to you, you still have a little hope that they have. And if they have, then they have. Like, just don't obsessively check the phone. If needs be, let your friend know that you get very anxious when they don't respond straight away. This is not going to make them respond straight away, okay? This is absolutely not going to make them respond straight away, but you might find some comfort in knowing that you just let them know how it made you feel, how it makes you feel. Maybe they'll be, quicker to respond, or maybe they'll just send a response saying, hey, can't reply to this right now, get back to you later, or something like that, okay? Friendships are full of compromises, okay? Maybe someone that doesn't like being on the phone can compromise and say, all right, I'm going to send this little text saying I can't respond right now. And maybe the person that gets really anxious when the friend doesn't respond to the text can just take a moment to breathe. I also think understanding the events that you went through when it comes to friendship trauma is really important to look at, because clearly I was holding that event in the back of my mind, and it's just suddenly started to come out and made me realize why I react so strongly to the idea of possible rejection, even though it typically isn't. The last thing I think I want to say is, if you have done something wrong, okay, if you fucked up, if you said something bad, if you did something bad, whatever, sometimes people do stuff and they really genuinely do not realize, okay? Sometimes people say things out of turn and they don't think about the effect it had on other people. And I think that if you are upset with a friend, okay, the last thing you should do is just ghost and ignore them, okay? I think that's totally unfair. I think that no matter what they did, they should be given a space to apologize, or at least they should be given the information in order for them to take it and either learn from it or ignore it. They should be able to have that choice. And so I think that if you are someone who just completely ghosts your friends when you just slightly don't enjoy something they said or did, like I don't I don't really stand behind that at all. And I think that if you are starting to feel anxious because your friends aren't responding to you, just know that a real friend, if they are genuinely mad at you, will let you know. And it doesn't mean they'll let you know and say, hey, I want to fix this and be friends again. Maybe they don't. But a real friend and a real person with feelings and understanding of how people's brains work will let you know and say, hey, I'm mad at you because of this, and this. And they will give you an opportunity to apologize or whatever you wish to do with the information. But I think that it's like no matter what you did, people should have the choice. Unless it's something you genuinely did and you know that you did, then just apologize, okay? But typically, when I'm having a fight or flight reaction to someone not responding to my messages for a few minutes, like, I am never sure that I did something wrong. It's usually my brain saying, maybe you did do something wrong. So there's a big difference, okay? There is a huge difference. And also, I will say that when there's a definite reason someone's mad at you, it makes you feel so much better because your brain can't start making up stories and scenarios because your brain can make up whatever it wants. There's no limit to your imagination. When you have the facts, if you did send a bad text, if you did say something wrong, if you did do something wrong, like just knowing the physical information is so much more relieving than your brain coming up with all these different scenarios. So just know that if it's a real friend, they will let you know that they're mad at you. They will let you know that they don't want to talk to you. If they don't, that's not a real friend. A real friend will let you apologize. A real friend will give you the information. So if you feel like something bad is happening, just take a breath and understand that either they are going to respond at some point or they're not really the person you wanted around in your life anyway. And those are the kind of two options. So anyway, I must go to school. I just wanted to share that because I think that for me, it's still one of those strange things that I thought, like, by 30, I'm not going to have this weird anxiety when it comes to friendships that seems very high school and young. But I do. I still carry those emotions around with me and they suck. They suck so bad. The idea that the people you hang out with, the people you feel like you get on with don't want to be around you anymore, that sucks, okay? In some ways it's worse than a breakup with a relationship, with a romantic relationship. Because even when you break up with a romantic relationship, your friends are the ones you go to talk about it. And so it sucks, and I know it sucks. And I just want to say, you're not the only one feeling this way. Don't worry. Literally, all of my friends at some point in the week, once a week, I will get a text from one friend saying, are you mad at me? And I'm just like, no. So it's not a unique experience you're going through. Just know that you just take a breath, okay? Just take a breath. And it's all going to be totally fine. And your brain, again, has no limit to its imagination. It can come up with the worst fucking thing ever. It can catastrophize in such a way that you feel like your life is over, but I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not, and I promise you it's a very natural reaction to your brain perceiving rejection, okay? Because it thinks you're going to die, it thinks you're going to be eaten by some sort of strange wild boar because you didn't have your friend group around you to protect you from that while you were sleeping in shifts. That's just not the reality today. So just have that information, okay? Just to have that information is very helpful. And to do some writing about it. I felt this way, I felt that way. Sometimes just writing to yourself makes you feel better when you feel like you need to send a crazy, drastic, emotionally charged text. Sometimes writing things down in a notebook and then just closing the notebook is as satisfying. And you aren't sort of, reacting to anyone else or there's just so many things that we can do. And it's very normal. It's very normal. But I must go to school now. I love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I will see you next time. Okay? I love you guys. And if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. It's super helpful to me. All right, I will see you next time. Okay, I love you guys. Bye.